Hi guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I discuss various topics related to my majors that I'm interested in, like international relations, public relations, communications, global studies, and those things, and find things in my life connecting to those majors and just tell about my life. And in order to find people who also share those life experiences and just share and build a community. So welcome. So today's topic is a really interesting one because I can relate to that, being a teenager and an immigrant. So today's topic is what immigrant teens never say. So being an immigrant and then a teenager, I moved here when I turned 12 on my birthday, and it was just kind of like a year before I turned a teen, but then it was basically the year after I moved here went by so fast, and it was literally half a year before it just felt like I was a teenager here already. So my whole childhood was spent in Ukraine, and then I finished 6 classes there, and I'm gonna finish 6 classes here. So the whole childhood was left in Ukraine, and in the United States I basically spent my whole like teenhood, adolescence. So there's gonna be a few points that I'm gonna make, and the first one would be part of being an immigrant teen is missing a version of yourself. So that shows in the fact that I basically left everything like behind right when I moved here. So basically all my childhood like memories and stuff, the way I perceived the world was kind of left out. And what I mean by left out is that I wasn't able to share it with my new friends here and with the people I know here. So it was just kind of like didn't even happen because it's really hard to keep up with the relationships that I had in Ukraine simply because of, first of all, everything happening. Second of all, obviously like our lives are gonna spread apart with my friends there. So it's just like, because there's only pictures, videos and stuff, there's no like actual connection that I can talk about unless I have friends here who are also immigrants, which I do. And that was kind of relieving because I can talk this like shared life that I had with them. But otherwise, it's just, you don't really talk about it. Some of the places I've been to, and even the immigrant teenagers like that are my friends here, they might be from a different place, they just speak Russian, so like often they don't even share the same places I grew up in, like the exact same city and stuff. So sometimes it just feels like a false memory, like didn't really happen because I can't really talk about it as much, and I don't keep like bringing it up in my daily life, which is sad because I miss those memories because they're like core memories for me, because that's where I mostly started forming those like early memories, all of my early memories actually. So the real version of myself, I mean by that, like kind of is left out, that my childhood version, and it's just really odd, just like not to mention that version. And it's definitely with this case, it just feels like obviously my life has split before and after, and it's so hard combining those two worlds, like I talked in my previous videos, which you should definitely check out. But it was just really difficult because it's just like a straight before and after, and there's not really a combination between, and obviously dealing with that and the teenage kind of years, becoming a teenager is just a challenge itself. Number 2 is definitely becoming my own translator, and for my family as well, because I have to translate so much. When I came here, thank goodness I didn't go like immediately to school in California. I went to Oregon school for like 2 months, and that was so helpful because I just had like the time to myself, because it was like indoor school and it was just kind of in the beginning of the year. So I was able to focus on like translating so much, and it just took me so much time to do my homework, even though it was like middle school, right? It was easy, but it was just so much time because I had to first of all translate everything, then read it in Russian, then type my answers out in Russian, and then translate it back to English, which would like double and even triple the time it took for me to do those homeworks. Definitely phone calls, school emails. It was just a lot of translation. I always had like a translation. Some teachers, actually all of them in Oregon, but then at my Californian school, middle school, I would just understand English more, so it'd be fine. But in Oregon school, they would actually allow me to have my phone for translation because I didn't always have like a computer, or like wasn't allowed to have a computer like in class. So they're like, oh yeah, just use your phone. And I swear, I kind of only used that for translation, honestly. I was just so locked in that I wasn't able to like not use it outside of like a translation app, which is kind of proud of me, I would say. Kind of proud. Kind of like feeling older because you're like, you always have to translate everything, and it's just like you have an extra responsibility just to do basic tasks is definitely adding on to that like kind of maturity kind of vibe. Number 3 is the pressure to succeed. So the pressure to succeed is definitely a lot because but it's also a good thing. You know, there's a thing such as called eustress that I know from AP Psych class in my high school. But basically eustress is good stress, and I'm kind of like lucky to have that stress, right? But at the same time, it is just, I mean, it's a fact that it's a pressure, right? Because we immigrated here, and then it's just a pressure to succeed because like so much work has already put on just daily wise. The fact that I can do my sports, go to this good school, like have all those opportunities. Daily life is just such a pressure to succeed and do so much. But it's just the fact that it's a pressure, but I kind of appreciate it as well because it just motivates me to do more even if I'm lazy. And even if I'm too lazy to do anything, I just think about it and I'm like, okay, yeah, at some point when I will have the energy, I'll have to lock in because what is all this work gonna go to waste or something? So yeah, and definitely a lot of feeling guilty when I'm motivated. So much guilt when you're just tired, but again, it's kind of eustress. Number 4 would be fitting in without losing yourself is definitely a thing because a lot of like changing and adapting to the current culture. But honestly, it's kind of fun in many ways because when I was growing up, I had certain schemas, maybe say term, certain schemas of growing up, and they just kind of changed going here because there's just different standards of like culture-wise, outfit-wise, kind of manners and like speaking-wise, right? And it was kind of fun like doing that, but definitely it's just a thing, especially during the teenage era because there's just like so much, you know, evaluating how you look, how you speak. There's a lot of that, especially during the teenage years. And it's definitely, yeah, there's a lot of kind of like wondering many versions of yourself is real you because there's the old version, there's a new version, and you're like, okay, well, I was an old version because I was surrounded by this environment, but then I got into a different environment and I became this person. So like, who do I actually like? Like, is that because of the environment? Or there's kind of like a pattern in between kind of like shows who I am, you know what I mean? So like something in the middle that can connect to all your old self and new self. If I need that fine line of like, oh, that's my version. So like, it's definitely finding that version of yourself, especially during teenage years as an immigrant teenager. And our closing point for today will be number 5, which is being grateful and struggle at the same time. So there's a lot of feelings of gratefulness, being grateful, being honored to like have the opportunity to be in the United States, in America, to have all opportunities, the pool of like many different things you can do with your life compared to like where you came from. But the thing is, that really pairs up with a lot of overthinking, with a lot of thinking, kind of anxiety, like if I'm doing this right, if I should spend my time on this, if I can do more time, if I can do more. So that definitely becomes kind of like a struggle at the same time because you're so grateful and you're like afraid to miss anything that would lead to that like success because you're given such an opportunity. So it's just like you feel left behind most of the time because I'm racing this, chasing this, chasing numbers, like people, like things, some kind of goals. I'm chasing goals, but then I feel like there's always more because I've given such an opportunity, and compared to how much opportunity I've given, I was comparing that to like how much I've actually done. So that becomes kind of like a challenge and like inner conflict, but at the same time, like we're all humans, and especially teenagers in my case. So like reality wise, it makes sense that I can't keep up with everything, but because you have this like comparison, like the 2 lives you had and the one you have now, and you're just grateful for so many things you have now. So you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna do so much because I'm so grateful, but you're like, you can't physically do it. So that's a really big struggle and feelings of being behind most of the time. So the ending could be that being an immigrant, especially immigrant teenager, isn't just about learning a culture, a different language, different mannerism, getting used to where you live, but it's just about combining the 2 different worlds within yourself and finding the middle ground where you can be at peace and accept both of those versions because they're equally important, especially when being a teenager, because those emotions really spice things up and that can get tricky and that can get frustrating, but you know, it's all a process. So this is my topic. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Tell me in the comments which other topics you want me to explore. What do you just thought about this video? And if you checked out any other videos, go and comment on those. If you haven't, just go, please support me. Subscribe. I'll appreciate so much your support to my vlog as it's just starting and I'm gonna continue on. So thank you guys for watching. Bye. Bye.